Hopeful Tribe, what we're doing is helping people thrive by helping them build and sustain loving and kind relationships with themselves and others.
Yep.
Right? So, how do you feel setting boundaries helps people build and sustain
Relationship.
loving and kind relationships?
Yeah. So this is a really good question. And actually I spoke a little bit about this with Queen because I saw her earlier. The winner, the $100 winner of our challenge. Yeah. So oftentimes we think that if we set a boundary or we speak out for our needs or speak out in a way that the other person might get upset about, that it might hurt the relationship, right? But often when we're holding on to things and we're not taking care of ourselves and we're not speaking up when we need to, and then it just sort of it blows up. At some point it's going to come out, a thing that's bothering us, right? And then it sort of comes out of left field for the person, and so they feel like it's out of left field, but we, since we've been holding on to it for a long time, feel like I've been mad about this for a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that often can damage a relationship, whereas sort of setting boundaries and making sure you both know where you stand, behaviors that are bugging you or different things that are happening, they're not happening again and again. And if they are happening again and again, maybe it is purposeful, right? But if you're setting those boundaries, you are helping grow your relationship and make it stronger. So I think it's so important. It's so important for building relationships, setting them from the start, not getting into especially intimate relationships right away where you go like, oh, that'll probably change later. It's okay, and then it doesn't. And you're, I don't know, years in and, just not as in love with each other as you could be. So I think it's just so important.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember a time when your inability to set a boundary negatively affected a relationship?
Yeah, I sure can. And it was a person who I was like kind of helping a lot and being a support with. But then quite often sort of they'd step over the line with the boundary. But since we were so used to me being in the helper role, I wouldn't sort of let them know when they'd stepped over it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I'd be irritated. And then sometimes, just like I said before, sometimes it would sort of blow up and they would out of left field wonder why I was so irritated. But it did turn out to sort of damage the relationship, and the relationship isn't whole and intact now because I had a hard time setting boundaries and in some ways feel like I was sort of being taken advantage of. And yeah, it just isn't a really good feeling in that relationship now. So yeah, I definitely can. There are probably more than one, but one's coming to mind right now. And as with everything, I'm not naming any names.
It's best.
Yeah.
Now, do you remember a time when your boundary setting improved a relationship?
Oh, yeah, actually, every day for the last 9 months. As I learned, we've been together 9 months. Yeah, as I was reminded 2 weeks ago, because I thought it was, I got the math wrong, dyslexia, dyscalculia, I don't know, something. But yeah, so just being in a relationship with a wife coach, being in a relationship and being able to be with someone who's such a good communicator, it's helped my communication skills and also helped me feel safe to set boundaries. And I feel it has helped us become as close as we have into the outside world, maybe a relatively short time, just because, I don't ignore things there haven't been any red flags. Often, sometimes you can even ignore red flags though, but I don't ignore things that are, I know that down the road are going to cause problems. I, stoke up my courage and, speak to them. So yeah, right here, right now, this is the time when setting boundaries and learning to stay true to myself. It's a work in progress. Like I said, I've been learning through this process of us doing these videos, but it's helped our relationship become stronger that we process things, and even if right away the boundary isn't set, it's usually set. We never finish up the day without settling things. We'll talk, we'll talk into the wee hours if we need to, to kind of talk through things. So yeah, that's the time.
Sweet.
You're sweet. Should I ask you these questions?
Sure. You want to go back and ask me?
Yep. Okay. So how do you feel setting boundaries help people help people build and sustain a loving and kind relationship?
I think that boundaries are foundational, right?
Mm.
To a relationship. If I don't know where I end and you begin,
Mm-hmm.
then it's just kind of like having a relationship with myself. It's not really having a relationship with another person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I need boundaries to feel like, I'm a distinct person,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
getting my needs met,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, to me that's why it's really important.
I love that. Love that where um, I begin and you end kind of thing. I love that explanation. That's really great.
Yeah. And at the same time, I think we're all incredibly connected and
Mm-hmm.
you know,
But you still have to know where you begin and end. That's
yeah,
good. That's really
yeah,
good.
it's helpful.
And then, can you remember a time when your inability to set a boundary negatively affected a relationship?
Oh yeah, many times. Many times. Um I'm trying to think of a really clear one. Um I think when my youngest son was a teenager, sometimes I had a hard time because I was so tired, right? I raised 16 kids and he was the 16th. And I was just so tired of being a mom. I had like a really bad case of mommy burnout that sometimes I had a hard time setting limits with him because I was just exhausted, you know? And so he'd do something that was really out of pocket and I just turn around and go to my room. Like, I just can't. I just can't. And it wasn't good for him or for me, but I would just walk away. And yeah, it wasn't good. I had to pay when I didn't address the bad behaviors. They just escalate and get worse. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
And then, do you remember a time when your boundary setting improved a relationship?
Yeah. Yeah, I can. Um, my mom and I had a really complicated relationship. I felt like the only reason I could ever see her was because I was willing to set boundaries.
Mm.
For instance, she really wanted to see her grandkids, and I wanted her to be able to see her grandkids. But I didn't want to um, traumatize them with her sometimes erratic behavior.
Mhm.
So I would say, I'm making you lunch, mom, so you can see the boys and hang out with them. It'll be ready at noon, and then at 2 o'clock, I need you to leave.
Mm.
And that's how it is. And that allowed her to come visit and spend time with the grandkids, allowed them to get to know her. And she knew I meant it,
Yeah.
right? Like there's no waiting till 2:10 to leave the house. And that allowed me to have some kind of relationship and let my kids have some kind of relationship with her, even though she had some really erratic behavior.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really powerful. Because parents push back often, and it just shows like how strong and smart you are that you're able to kind of just hold that line. It's really good.
Oh, that's sweet, baby.
But no,
You're
I think
so sweet. She's so nice to me. That's why I'm marrying her. No one's ever been this nice to me before.
Yeah.
And we hope you feel loved and hopeful until we see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.